There are still to date no sightings or messages from Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, since he was announced as his father's successor.
But there is a message that the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is imparting to him.
The new leader of Iran, he would be wise to heed the word, which is to not pursue nuclear weapons and come out and state as such.
President Trump has said he doesn't believe Khamenei can live in peace. It's not clear exactly what he meant by that, but he has consistently expressed disappointment in Iran's pick and insisted the U.S. be involved in the decision for whoever controls Iran. Kirsten Fontenrose is a national security strategist. She's a former senior director for the Gulf on the NSC from 2018 on. Kirsten, it's great to get your perspective on this. And I wonder, when you hear Pete Hegseth say that, how do you think Iran is going to receive that message?
It's a message that's meant for, I think, several audiences. Inside Iran, at least two, both Mojtaba himself. It's kind of an offer to him for a path to leadership and a path to potentially be a hero in international eyes. If he did say, I'm new to this, I don't have a public stance on the nuclear file yet, I can say we are going to denounce pursuit of a weapon and the world will celebrate me. And he doesn't have to live in a bunker the rest of his life, danger of being knocked off by us or the Israelis. It's also a message, I think, to the regime as a whole, giving them a potential off-ramp to this. They can say, we're in a new era, we're going to take a different direction, we're going to listen to the grievances of our people. And then he's talking to domestic people here, he's talking to the international community saying, we're giving diplomacy a chance here before we go in with the other threat, which was the largest, most intensive day of strikes ever. So he's messaging to several people. What I think could possibly happen, there are about three scenarios for how this could be received in Iran. And the first one is they could choose to renounce their nuclear program. They could do that through a back channel to us, through Oman, perhaps, or through state media, and say that this is because they've decided to take a different tack and they want to rejoin the international community and they want to be part of the global economy and the lives of their people mean something to them and they're turning a new leaf. This is unlikely. One, because it's just not the trajectory of their policy, and two, because Mojtaba was selected by this 88-member council as a big fat middle finger to the U.S., right? He is the hardliner selection. So that's less likely to happen, but not impossible, again, since he doesn't have a public record on it. They could also choose to say nothing, and the IRGC could just continue striking their neighbors in Israel, in which case our administration says, hey, international community, we gave them a chance at diplomacy. We gave them a chance at an off-ramp. They chose not to take it. Now we're going in even harder. Or they could say, we want to denounce the program. We want to get this off-ramp. We don't want to live in a bunker, but we need to save face. Now, Hegseth's message didn't sound like it gave them that option by saying you need to publicly state. But if you're President Trump and you can get both a deal and look like you've stopped a war at the same time, then that might be attractive.
I wonder generally, given that you're indicating that this is messaging on several levels to the regime specifically, what other recourse does the U.S. have to secure that enriched uranium? Is there support, IAEA or other international players, that would lend a hand in perhaps doing that?
They would lend a hand, both the IAEA and several other international bodies. The problem is there are about 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium that we're not sure of the location of. We don't know exactly where they are. So that's why bombs can't solve that problem. And if you have a nuclear program, it's part capability and it's part intent. And asking Mojtaba to denounce that is getting at that part of the problem that bombs can't solve. So it really is, it's not an empty offer. We really would like to see Mojtaba say, I'm going to take a different approach. It's just not likely.
One objective that the Trump administration has been discussing is recovering and securing Iran's remaining highly enriched uranium. But that's something that would take troops on the ground. Maybe special forces, maybe special operations forces. It's hard to know exactly what they're planning here. But what do you think about that plan? What might that look like?
That would not, putting troops on the ground to secure that would not happen before a conflict had ended. You would not send in troops to secure that material during active conflict. If you were sending in troops during that, it would be for specific targets. They're either going after regime targets that we can't get at without the risk of large collateral damage, or particular facilities you need to take offline. And again, bombing them or airstriking them would risk too many lives. That's when you would send in special forces. If you're doing it to secure enrichment facilities, you do that after the conflict is ended and you're trying to prevent them from falling into the hands of bad actors, or from regime remnants coming and taking hold of them, or from them being sold on a black market. That does exist. It's not like in the movies, but it does exist. So they would need to put them in to secure the facility. Then you'd bring in experts who knew how to handle that material. That's not the active duty military or special operations job.
Yeah.
Aren't some of those risks, though, for example, about the sale of this enriched uranium, the making of a dirty bomb by some of Iran's proxies, couldn't that all happen before the conflict ends if the government is degraded? I mean, isn't it sort of a chicken or the egg thing? You don't really know which might come first?
It absolutely can happen, which is why we rely on things like intelligence. You know, we rely on imagery. We rely on people on the ground who are not our troops in uniform to tell us what is going on, what is being built at those tunnels, who is visiting. We have pretty good granularity on some of what we can see from the sky. And we also have, not just us, but other partners have insiders who fill us in on some of what is happening. We don't want to risk a dirty bomb, so we keep an eye on the proxies themselves as well. So far, they've been fairly quiet. Now, it wouldn't have to be a proxy. It wouldn't have to be Hezbollah or the Houthis necessarily. It could be any party from almost any country looking to gain politically what they can't gain territorially, or what they can't gain through small arms on the ground in whatever their country is. You could also have rogue regimes in other countries. It doesn't have to be a proxy or a terrorist group that says, I would like to suddenly increase my status on the international stage through possessing the ability to create a nuclear bomb, in which case they could be a purchaser. So there are quite a few potential avenues, and you're right. That is possible. It's even more likely during active conflict in the fog of war, but that's why we keep a pretty close watch on facilities, and you're trying to eliminate in your target list the people who would have the ability to make that sale.
Yeah, this chaos creates opportunity. Kirsten, great to get your perspective. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
And we'll be right back.